Thank you for joining us. We begin tonight with a sad incident in Kogi State, where 5 more bodies have been recovered in a devastating boat mishap that rocked the Ibaji local government area of the state, bringing the death toll to at least 26. The agency also linked the accident to the rise in water resulting from flooding in the state, noting that 6 wards in the area have been submerged in flood waters, with several others in Ajokuta and Ganaja under threat. While speaking to newsmen at the State Secretariat in Lokoja, the agency added that humanitarian efforts are on the way, with the distribution of relief materials by the National Emergency Management Agency in collaboration with NEMA likely to begin from Friday.
Together harmoniously to see how we can rescue those people who are trapped in the various rivers where the incident happened, and recover them, and also assess them, the level of devastation, the impact of the disaster, and come up with the modalities to see how we can, make them those who were directly affected, indirectly affected, to see how we can support them. As I'm speaking to you now, we've recovered 5 more bodies, and an operation emergency office have been put in place there by the state government, and we've been urged that we'll make sure that all these bodies should be recovered from. His Excellency has approved the release of relief materials to some flood-prone areas, and don't be surprised, within the next 24 hours, we are expecting His Excellency to visit scene personally. So His Excellency, when he gets there, will make some pronouncements which I cannot preempt. Right? We have about 6 wards in Ibaji local government that have been submerged with water. Then in Lokoja local government, we went together. The situation is still not yet favorable. And in Ajakuta local government, Ganaja has been threatened so much that even yesterday the water level rose astronomically, that we had to even deploy some of our men to control traffic there yesterday.
We understand the death toll is now 41 and no longer 26. News Central's correspondent on the ground, Monobala Gbogbo, has been tracking this story and joins me now for a situation report. Also joining in is the Kogi State Commissioner for Agriculture and Food Security, Timothy Ojomo. Let me start with you, Mono. Thanks for the coverage so far. Let's begin by extending our condolences to the people and government of Kogi State. Mono, as of last count, the death toll was 41. Any further update? Are bodies still expected?
Yes, Felicity, good evening to you. I will tell you that the state government under the Kogi State Emergency Management is looking to ensure what he told you earlier today was that they're doing everything possible to ensure that everybody is uncovered, that they dig deeper and ensure that everybody is accounted for. So that is still ongoing, and I'm sure by tomorrow there'll be more updates as search continues.
The emergency agency has said the accident was not unconnected with flooding, and that the boat hit a tree trunk, which would ordinarily not happen if water level was at its minimum. Also, considering the current toll, what are the biggest challenges you would say are currently facing rescue and recovery efforts?
I think the biggest challenge, of course, this is on water, so there has to be a lot of care, given the fact that Mokhtar made mention to me earlier that the water levels are rising, and all care has to be taken and to ensure that people are safe, while also trying to uncover these bodies that have been submerged in the water. So it's really a lot, and of course there's so many stakeholders that are working with SEMA. The head of operations in Abuja was also around, Abubakar Zekeri. I spoke with him earlier today at the State Secretariat here in Lokoja, and they are cooperating, working, and also calling on other stakeholders who are non-governmental. I've also been speaking to the Red Cross. They have some of their volunteers in Ibaji, and they're just trying to, cooperate together to ensure that they account for every person that is submerged in water so far. So, like earlier reported, 63 persons, were rescued, and the bodies are the ones that they are after now, just to ensure that they are able to account for every one person. And we'll keep on updating the figures as it has been reported. Back to you, Felicity.
Back to you in a bit, but let's bring in the Honorable Commissioner now for his thoughts on what's going on. I mean, you have been to Ibaji, that's where you're from. What can you tell us about the steps, immediate steps that the Kogi State government is taking to investigate the cause of the accident and maybe hold those responsible to account?
Foremost, I want to sincerely appreciate Nigerian, starting with the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu, who has, in his usual fatherly manner, expressed his condolences to the governor and the people of the state. And I want to sincerely appreciate him for that. And the overpouring condolences to the victims and the people of Kogi State, by all Nigerians, I sincerely want to appreciate them. Yes, Kogi State government, under the leadership of Alhaji Ahmed Usman Ododo, the servant leader, has been so prompt in dealing with any issue as it relates to the state, not just ugly incidents, any incidents. You recall the state is reckoned with, turning the tide of things. In agriculture, you see us turn the tide of things. So the state government promptly sent the rescue team who were on ground as soon as we heard the ugly incidents. You recall the thing happened on the 30th of September, the eve of the 65th independence of Nigeria. People with their usual, excitement to witness another celebration were crossing to Edo State, in particular, to go and sell their food items and buy wares to celebrate the independence. Unfortunately, the ill-fated boat capsized at the middle of the river. So His Excellency promptly sent a rescue team led by FEMA. NIWA was on ground. That's why I started by appreciating the President of the Federal Republic. NIWA were on ground. Like it was mentioned, people with life jackets actually survived. The ill-fated boat carried about 80 persons, children, women, and youth in their categories. The Onugba community is along the river Niger. It's just a stone throw. That is where they go to bathe, they go to wash, they go to fetch water for any of their shores. So the people, the confidence they always have over time, obviously would have made some persons not to take precaution, as in putting on life jacket. Right. So the panic that ensued, especially as it happened at the middle of the river, and this is flooding season. The bank of the river were flooded. Obviously, you expect the river to be very, very wide. And happening at the middle of the river simply means several persons. And some persons in a...
Honorable, I will come back to you in a second. I just want to get one quick information from my colleague, then I'll do a follow-up with you. Mona, one major thing that was talked about was the use of life jackets, and the commissioner just mentioned that those who use life jackets survived. What did the people tell you about compliance with these safety rules? One other thing that the NEMA talked about was the condition of the vessels that plied the waters and enforcement of this rule. What did they tell you about that?
Well, Felicity, they did not say anything about the vessel in particular, but all they told me, just like the Honorable Commissioner mentioned, was the fact that those who wore life jackets were safe and they were able to rescue all of them. But those who did not were the ones, that's just so sad. Some of them are missing, and while other bodies have been recovered. But one thing that they told me was that the boat hit a tree trunk And, you know, as the water levels are rising, you would expect that some of these streams, they're all covered up with water. I just recall the other time on the 12 reports where I went to the Kabawa community in Lokoja, and I showed, and I found the camera to show you that set of lands, I mean, people's farms all covered up with water, including very tall trees, all covered up. So when you have a boat carrying 80 persons and it's moving on the water, there is a slight possibility that it could hit something, either a tree or just a rock or something that would normally be revealed to you if it's not covered up with water. So it's just the sad situation of things that happened at that particular point on the water.
Mona, I asked that question because I wanted to confirm from the Honorable Commissioner. This is not the first time that we're having a situation. In fact, every rainy season, Kogi is in the headline for, you know, situations with flooding and the aftermath that comes with it. In the presser that was given by the Commissioner for Information, there was talk about collaboration with the federal government to enhance waterways safety. What can you tell us prior to this moment? What has been done to create further awareness on the importance and imperativeness of wearing life jackets by those who ply the waters and other measures that NEMA has brought to enlighten people?
Well, Felicity, I can tell you for a fact that there's been a lot of awareness.
No, Mona, the question is for the Commissioner, not you, please.
So issue of compliance to the use of life jackets and creating awareness, I want to say categorically here that the state government under the able leadership of Alhaji Ahmed Usman Ododo have been so conscious of the fact that Kogi State, many parts of Kogi State, during this season especially, will have issue of flooding. The waterways, you know, Kogi State is a confluence of both River Niger and River Benue. Obviously, both the river converge. At this time, there will be excess water. And as such, the awareness on movement of people, especially living along the coastal line to move to safety has always been there. There is a committee that is set up, led by the Deputy Governor himself. Before flood comes in, always meet and always sensitize the people, telling them they need to move to safety.
Will there be stricter? I'm sorry to interject, but I'm told we have we should actually wrap up this conversation. So quickly, should we expect a stricter enforcement measure for people to follow safety protocol for those who will continue to need to use the waters?
Yes, there is. All we do is to reawaken the existing law. There's a state law that prohibits anybody that fly on a waterway from, compels them to use life jackets. So there is such law. In the local government, Ibadan local government, for instance, there is equally a bylaw that everybody using the waterways, Ibadan is the local government that over 80-90% of the entire local government will be submerged during this flood season, as we speak. So the law has been enacted long time ago. What we are saying, life jacket, the provision of life jacket, I want to use this medium to appreciate the federal government through IPADEC. And IPADEC supplied life jacket to the local government, to the state, sometime early this year.
I guess I will expect more of that so that more people can have access to these life jackets. That's the much time we have. Thank you so much for sparing the time to speak with us, Honorable Commissioner. And Mona, always a pleasure. Thank you for bringing us updates, although it was not on a happy note. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Coming up tonight, Atiku Abubakar denies reports to step down in the 2027 presidential election. We have details of this and much more when we come back. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching Tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. Death toll rises in Kogi boat accident as residents anticipate relief amid unprecedented flooding. Court dismisses suit challenging President Tinubu's declaration of emergency in Rivers State. as Governor Fubara sacks cabinet. Prime Minister Starmer says Britain must defeat rising anti-Semitic hate following killing of 2 in Manchester synagogue attack. Now, ahead of Nigeria's presidential election, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has dismissed report implying that he intends to abandon his ambition for another aspirant. In an interview on BBC on Wednesday, Atiku was reported to have declared his willingness to step down for a younger, vibrant and more acceptable candidate on the platform of the coalition-backed African Democratic Congress. But the ex-vice president has dismissed the report as a misrepresentation of the interview. In a statement by his media advisor, Paul Ibe, on Thursday, Atiku said neither the video nor the transcript of the interview implied or suggested that he plans to step down for anyone. Let's go now to developments in Rivers State. The latest is that the Federal High Court in Abuja has dismissed a case against President Bola Tinubu, which sought to overturn his March 18th declaration of emergency in Rivers State. Justice James Omotosho ruled that the plaintiffs, Belema Briggs and 4 others, lacked legal standing, local standing to bring this suit, and that only the Supreme Court has jurisdiction to rule on the legality of such an emergency declaration. The plaintiffs had asked the court to declare the suspension of Siminalayi Fubara, Deputy Ngozi Odu, and members of the Rivers State House of Assembly unconstitutional and void, and to annul the transfer of executive powers to Ibas. Meanwhile, Governor Fubara has disengaged members of his cabinet, appreciating them for their service and contribution to the development of the state over the past 2 years. The affected officials include commissioners and other public officers whose appointments were recently nullified by the Supreme Court and whose tenure effectively ended following the ruling. Fubara, who was suspended during the period of the state of emergency imposed on the state by President Bola Tinubu, commended his former cabinet members during a valedictory session held at Government House, Port Harcourt on Wednesday, as part of activities marking Nigeria's 65th independence anniversary. In a bid to boost infrastructural and energy investment in the country, President Tinubu has received 2 globally renowned investors for high-level talks on Nigeria's energy and infrastructure future. President Tinubu welcomed Hakeem Bello Osage, chairman of Metis Capital Partners and senior lecturer at Harvard Business School, alongside Bayo Ogulesi, chief executive officer of Global Infrastructure Partners and senior managing director at BlackRock. Discussions focused on investment in both the nation's upstream oil and gas sector and large-scale infrastructural transformations.
I just had an excellent meeting with Mr. President, where we talked about the fundamental transformation that has happened in the last 2 years. Think about it. Removal of subsidy, tax reform. We have a refinery that's operating and exporting aviation fuel, unification of the road ownership system. And so the next step is, how do we encourage international investment in Nigeria to drive economic growth? There's gas in Nigeria. Nigeria is a huge gas province. People describe me as the guy who bought Gatwick Airport. I didn't personally buy Gatwick Airport, but the aviation sector is also an area of interest to us. I confess to Mr. President that one of our companies has ports in Cotonou, and it has a port in Lomé, none in Nigeria. So I asked for his forgiveness and understanding, and being the gentleman that he was, he forgave me, but said, you have to bring port investment to Nigeria. So that's another area we're looking at. Renewables, that's another area. So lots of investment opportunities in Nigeria. You just have to be serious about making the right moves.
I think when Nigerians in Nigeria and when Nigerians in the diaspora invest in Nigeria, it can only be a great signal for the international community to invest in us and make our country greater. We thank President Tinubu for his policies. They have made Nigeria investable. We wish him all the very best.
The Federal Ministry of Environment, in partnership with the Association of Forest Conservation and Green Industrial Charcoal Merchants, has engaged stakeholders on new global rules aimed at linking trade with forest protection. The meeting focused on the European Union's new deforestation regulation, which requires agricultural and forest-based exports such as cocoa, coffee, wood, rubber, and charcoal to be deforestation-free and legally produced before entering the EU market. Experts from SCS Global Services explained that Nigerian suppliers must now provide geolocation data, land titles, permits, and full traceability records to meet compliance deadlines beginning on the 30th of December 2025.
Deforestation regulation is a landmark law. It affects 7 major commodities and all of their derived products. So the seven are cocoa, coffee, soy, palm oil, rubber, cattle, and wood. So any exporter that wants to place these products on the EU market have to now meet strict requirements. That's what we'll discuss. The requirements include proving that...
To Plateau State, where the State Police Command says that it has arrested 7 suspected kidnappers, including others arrested for armed robbery, cattle rustling, among others. State Commissioner of Police Emmanuel Adesina, while briefing journalists at the command headquarters in Jos, says that the police will not relent in curbing criminal activities, protecting lives and property, and restoring law and order. He called for more collaboration with the public, especially in the area of intelligence sharing.
We are all aware of cases of kidnapping, violent crimes. But today I'm here with a good news that the command, through our relentless efforts, we have made a lot of breakthroughs, and some notorious bandits, kidnappers, were arrested in the course of diligent investigation on our part. I'm assuring our people in Plateau State that the command is not sleeping. We are aware of some cases of kidnapping, and we are following up. And the command will not rest until the last kidnapper will be arrested. And we are working on this to ensure that we work together with other security agencies to make the state...
Nigeria's creative and cultural heartbeat has received a major boost as President Bola Tinubu inaugurated the newly renovated National Arts Theatre in Lagos. The historic landmark, built in 1976, has been renamed the Wole Soyinka Center for Culture and the Creative Arts in honor of the country's Nobel laureate. News Center's Israel Iferubo tells us more.
After years of neglect, the National Theatre has been reborn as a world-class hub for culture and creativity. During the inauguration, part of Nigeria's 65th Independence Day celebrations, President Bola Tinubu said the revived landmark would invigorate the arts, culture, and creative economy.
Uncle Wole Soyinka, we are one of the greatest assets of the world. So it couldn't have been anything else. And I know definitely you will not disobey this president. So I say it has to be Wole Soyinka Center.
For Professor Wole Soyinka, the recognition came as a welcome surprise.
Let me begin by confessing, and I think you know this, that I accepted this honor with mixed feelings. First of all, I'm notorious for having criticized so many appropriations, personal appropriations of public monuments by some of our past leaders. By the time I looked at the history of theater in this country, I said to accept it.
Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu commended the federal government, the Central Bank of Nigeria, and the Bankers Committee, whose combined contribution of over 68 billion naira made the renovation possible.
Today, history embraces us once again. We gathered not only to witness the commissioning of a renovated edifice, but to celebrate the rebirth of a national icon, the National Arts Theatre, now rightfully named as the Wole Soyinka Center for Culture and Creative Arts.
This was a project especially close to the President's heart, and it was his vision that transformed it from a restoration into a symbol of national renewal.
It's a multi-billion-dollar project. All the main ball, the banquet hall, the cinemas, all the spaces have been beautifully renovated, so it's like a world-class standard, ready to receive events from us guys locally and also international events.
With its rebirth as the Wole Soyinka Center for Culture and the Creative Arts, the National Theatre is poised to reclaim its place as Nigeria's cultural heartbeat and a central hub for Africa's creative economy. In Lagos, for News Central, Israel Efirobo.
Still ahead, at least 3 killed in Morocco, Gen Z's 212 protest. That's after the break. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Away from Nigeria now, 3 people have been killed in protest in Morocco, demanding reforms to the public health and education sectors. The country's prime minister made this known on Thursday in his first public address since the arrest started nearly a week ago. An Interior Ministry spokesperson said that all 3 demonstrators were killed after attempting to storm a local law enforcement station on Wednesday night. And from the UK, Prime Minister Keir Starmer says Britain must defeat rising anti-Semitic hate after 2 people were killed in an attack at a Manchester synagogue. Directly addressing the UK's Jewish community, Starmer said he will do everything in his power to give the citizens the security they deserve. 2 people died and 4 are in hospital after a man drove a car at members of the public before stabbing people. Police have declared it a terrorist incident. Police shot the attacker dead within 7 minutes of the first 999 call. Officers later made 2 other arrests. And from the U.S., the White House has warned mass layoff of federal workers are imminent as the government shutdown enters its 2nd day. Thousands of employees have already been furloughed without pay after Congress failed to agree on a new spending plan. President Donald Trump has urged Republican allies to use the shutdown as an opportunity to make lasting budget cuts. He plans to meet with budget officials to decide which federal agency, described by Trump as political scams, should face temporary or permanent cuts. Lawmakers remain deadlocked, with the next vote to resolve the shutdown scheduled for Friday. We have a global policy analyst, Alexander von Rugen, for his thoughts on this conversation. Thank you very much for being here. In 2018, the shutdown was for 35 days, if I'm correct. Can you talk to us about what generally happens with a shutdown like this? Who is most impacted?
Well, government employees, because they don't get their paychecks. Everything stalls. I mean, essential government services stay active. But in a shutdown, the executive branch of the government takes over, and they can then choose and pick what operations they can advance funds to. And it's interesting because, yes, the last shutdown in President Trump's term was the largest or longest on record at 35 days. But this is not an anomaly in the U.S. Government. There's been multiple shutdowns in the last 40 years from both Republican and Democrat presidents. Bill Clinton had 2, Obama had 1, Ronald Reagan had 8 of them. So it's not unusual. In this particular case, the polarity between being politicized, Democrat and Republican. That's what's interesting in this shutdown, because there's a lot of mudslinging going on.
Yeah, exactly. You rightly noted this is not the first time this is happening. It's happened multiple times. But this time it is particularly tense because Trump is suggesting that he will use this opportunity to make further cuts on an already strained situation. How is this possibly impacting the current deadlock?
Well, it's upsetting the Democrats. The Democrats have said they're shutting the government down, or they want extended funding on the Affordable Health Care Act, which is coming due, and that's their whole stance is for lower end America that is less fortunate financially and would be impacted the most should the Affordable Care Act not receive these funds. President Trump has used this as an advantage to now cut back on government spending because he's in the executive branch, and by executive order he can do so. He's appointed Russell Vought as his Office of Management and Budget, which technically administers any cuts during a shutdown. And they've targeted 16 former Democratic states that had voted for Kamala Harris for about $8 billion in funding. Other effects would be for stopping foreign aid. And this doesn't affect Americans as much as it does the UN and USAID and other countries, primarily the continent of Africa, because over 60% of that funding goes there outside of Ukraine. So this is in line with Trump's budget cuts and his ambition to make the government more efficient.
I do have more questions, but I'm told we're out of time for this conversation. Thank you very much for speaking with us, as always.
My pleasure. Thank you.
We'll bring you business, sports, and entertainment news when we return from this short break. Do stay with us.
In business, we tell you that the Central Bank of Nigeria will take over the management of Nigeria's fixed income market beginning from November 2025 as part of reforms to boost transparency and efficiency. A statement signed by Oke Umeano, Acting Director of Financial Markets, said the Apex Bank will handle end-to-end settlement from November 3 and launch a new trading platform by December 1. The transition to be executed in stages includes user testing in October and a pilot phase with stakeholder collaboration led by the FMDA. Away from that, cocoa prices tumbled to multi-month lows on both New York and London exchanges, pressured by high payments to farmers in Ivory Coast and Ghana that are expected to boost supplies. Ghana's cocoa arrivals surged to 50,440 metric tons in late September, sharply above last year's levels, adding to bearish sentiment. Weak chocolate demand and forecasts of a stronger crop in West Africa have further weighed on the market, deepening a 7-week slide in cocoa futures. We now look at the equities market. The NGX advanced of course, today after yesterday's public holiday break, with the NGX showing the all-share index rising to about 0.19%, and of course with 142,949.46 points, with an appreciation differential of 0.19% and market cap at 90.75 trillion naira. Straight to sectoral performance, we see that the banking sector added 0.17%, supported by mild gains in the Access Bank, and of course UBA. Insurance climbed 0.42%, with players like Consolidated Hallmark helping to lift sentiment in the sector. Well, oil and gas inched up 0.12%, led by stability in Seplat Energy. Consumer goods also rose 0.35%, reflecting interest in Nigerian breweries and Dangote Sugar, while industrial goods slipped 0.02% on slight weakness we saw in Lafarge Africa. Well, here we see that markets actually reflected some sort of cautious optimism with modest accumulation across financials and consumer names. That's it on business news. I am Lekon Obanjo. Stay tuned for sports.
In sports, Nigeria's under-20 men's national football team will be seeking to get the FIFA Under-20 World Cup campaign back on track tonight when they face Saudi Arabia in their second group match at the tournament. The Flying Eagles sit bottom of Group F following a 1-0 loss to Norway on Monday, a match decided by Rasmus Holtim's 9th-minute penalty. Despite dominating possession, creating multiple chances, including 2 penalty appeals decided by the VAR, Nigeria ultimately lost. They face a Saudi team who also lost their opening match 1-0 to Colombia. The match comes up at midnight Nigerian time in the Chilean city of Talca. Now, 2 sports have indelibly placed Nigeria's name on the global sporting scene like no other over the years: football and athletics, with the nation's finest footballers and track and field stars winning international laurels and serving as some of the country's greatest ambassadors. But after 65 years of existence, can the country claim to have truly realized its enormous potential in sports? Well, News Central sports editor Babatunde Koiki tells us more in this last of the special reports.
JJ Okocha. Odyssey! Oh, what a goal! Sunday Odyssey with a wonder strike.
Nigeria possesses a long, rich and proud sporting history. While the natives of what we know as Nigeria today have their own native games and contests, modern sports in Nigeria began as a colonial import thanks to British schools, church missionaries, and an expatriate community. From colonial times, it was clear that the 2 major passions of Nigeria were athletics and football. Independence in 1960 brought stronger national institutions and an expanding talent pool, and so the nation began to compete consistently at the Commonwealth Games, African competitions, and the Olympic Games. Nigeria has participated in athletics for many decades, attending its first Olympic Games in 1952. By 2025, the nation had accumulated a rich history of athletic success, including winning its first ever Olympic gold medal in the women's long jump by Chioma Ajunwa in 1996.
Oh my goodness, it's 7:12. It's a new African and Commonwealth record for the Nigerian. That is going to be very, very tough to beat.
Athletics is the most successful sport in Nigeria, not football. Look at the Olympics. Athletics has won more gold than any sport. Football has only won one gold medal. Athletics won the first gold medal, 2nd of August 1996. The Dream Team won on the 3rd of August. Athletics has also won gold 4x4 in the Sydney Olympics. Athletics has won, out of about several events won, Athletics has won more medals in the Olympic Games than football. If you take the Commonwealth Games, Athletics has brought Nigeria more medals in the Commonwealth. If you take the South African Games, Athletics has given us more medals than any sport. We started going to the Olympics in 1952 in Helsinki, in Finland. But by 1996, Atlanta, by the 2nd of August 1996, we won our first gold. There are some European countries who have been going even before us, who have not won a gold. But in Nigeria, all we want is medal. And I'm happy that athletics has dominated the Olympic Games. The laurels won for Nigeria in athletics more than supersede any sport, football inclusive.
Football has also brought enormous glory to Nigeria. The first national football team were known as the UK Tourists, following their historic tour of the United Kingdom in 1949. Ever since, Nigerian national teams at every level have won many international laurels, from a record 5 under-17 World Cup titles to a historic Olympic men's gold medal to 3 Africa Cup of Nations titles to an unmatched 10 Africa Women's Cup of Nations crowns. Nigeria has made an indelible mark in world football. Individual Nigerian players are also celebrated worldwide.
We could and should have done better. Yeah, we've been to the World Cup about 6 times now, but we've not been beyond the second round. Some African countries have gotten to quarterfinals, and African countries have gotten to semi-finals. AFCON, we've won it 3 times, but I always like to people who say we are a superpower in African football, I always like to burst their bubble by saying this. Ghana are 4-time champions. Ghana won their 4th title in 1982. We have not passed Ghana on 4. We are still on 3. So, and this is a tournament that takes place every 2 years. So it underlines the fact that maybe we get to semi-finals, we win bronze medals a lot of times, but for the potential that we have. 3-time African champions, while it's not bad, is definitely not good enough.
But while these successes in athletics and football are well documented and celebrated, the general consensus is it could and should have been much better over the last 65 years. Stadiums, training centers, and domestic league infrastructure have fallen way below global standards. The talent development pipeline often depends on athletes migrating to Europe or the United States of America for development. Nigerian politics, federation disputes, and inconsistent funding cycles continue to harm long-term programs such as investment in youth academies, coaching, and sports science. Boycotts, withdrawals, and politicized decisions have cost athletes international seasons and momentum, forcing some of them to switch nationalities. Frequent leadership fights, politicization of sports bodies, and corruption have disrupted programs and coaching continuity. Added to all this is an inconsistent ability to attract the best talent from the diaspora. In 65 years of nationhood, Nigeria has undoubtedly made an indelible mark globally in sports. But the truth is, we have fallen short.
There you have it, a wrap on Sport Updates. I am Udoka Njoku. Entertainment is up next with Kate.
Polygamy is making headlines in entertainment, and Kate has the details.
Yes, indeed, I do. Hi, Felicity. How are you doing? Happy New Month. I think I can still tell you Happy New Month.
Yes, you can.
Happy Independence as well. All right. Well, interesting times in the world of entertainment, right? Veteran Nollywood star Bimbo Akintola has steered fresh debate after supporting polygamy, describing it as an African tradition that society should not shy away from. Now, speaking on Talk to Be, the 55-year-old actress recalled how many Yoruba families in past generations thrived in polygamous homes, and she argued that with today's shortage of men, sharing a husband may be practical for some women. Let's take a listen to this.
I'm not saying that, oh, you should stay with the man that cheats. You should stay. No, but I'm just saying if he's a great guy, if he's doing his duties, if you love him, he loves you, and it's just that he was raised to think that it's okay to spread his seed, he's okay with it.
Still, Akintola emphasized that monogamy is possible if boys are raised with the same values and discipline as girls, and she believes that respect and responsibility are vital to shaping a more faithful and balanced future. Felicity, over to you. What do you think about
it? Is a form of marriage, right? And we all have choices. You can choose to be in a polygamous home. Right. You can choose to be in a monogamous home. At the end of the day, it still takes a lot of discipline and commitment for any of them to succeed.
Right. It's the shortage of men for me, though.
That's we marry for another day. I mean, the world has evolved so much that there are people who don't think it's, again, it's a choice. Some people can choose that. Even men these days, some of them are getting, can't you see the soft life boys on social media? Yeah. That they just want to do
no
their
stress.
thing.
All right, moving on. Kim Kardashian and mom, Kris Jenner, have filed their first ever defamation lawsuit targeting rapper Ray J over what they call damaging lies. Now, the move follows Ray J's explosive claims that the Kardashians were under federal racketeering investigation, remarks that their lawyer, Alex Spiro, slammed as defamatory behavior of the worst kind. Now, the lawsuit highlights his comments in TMZ's United States versus Sean Combs documentary and his September live stream where he told millions of followers that a probe was underway. Now, Kim and Kris say they usually ignore gossip, but these accusations were too serious to let it slide. And they also accuse Ray J of exploiting Kim's name for nearly 2 decades since their 2005 split. And that does it on entertainment news for tonight. My name is Kate Adiogo.
And that's the news tonight. But before we go, here's a quick reminder of our top stories. The death toll has risen in Kogi boat accident, with residents anticipating relief amid unprecedented flooding. Also brought you news that the court has dismissed a suit challenging President Tinubu's declaration of emergency role in Rivers State as Governor Fubara disengages cabinet. And away from Nigeria, UK Prime Minister Starmer has warned Britain must defeat rising anti-Semitic hate after 2 were killed in Manchester synagogue attack. Do send us your eyewitness report. The number to do so is showing now on your screen. You can follow us on social media to do that as well, or just to catch up with the news at News Central TV. You can watch us live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. Many thanks for your kind company. Have a good night, and I'll see you on the next one.